Ready, Anthony?
I was born ready, Katty.
Welcome to The Rest is Politics US with me, Katty K.
And I'm Anthony Scaramucci. Good morning, Katty K. Where are you, Katty K?
I'm in Berlin. I've actually spent the last week traveling around Europe, Anthony. But I have to say, I feel like I've spent the last week playing therapist, not broadcaster or journalist, because I've been pulling Europeans back from the edge of kind of oblivion. And they keep saying, listen, can we be grabbing the emergency exit handle by now? And I say, no, not quite yet, not quite yet. And they keep asking me, about the tariffs, about NATO, about Ukraine. And they ask me what I'm looking at. And actually, I'm telling them, you need to be looking in places you're not looking. Because if we're looking at the strength and survival of the American democracy, actually, you should be looking at things like the rule of law, which we're going to talk about in the first half, talk about the judiciary. Is Trump obeying the courts? Is he going to carry on obeying the courts? And then in the second half, we're going to talk about Elon Musk and Tesla, which is the other thing I keep asking about, kind of a poll. I'm talking to a bunch of investors and business leaders here in Berlin, and they are very focused on Elon Musk and the relationship with Donald Trump, but also what's going to happen to Tesla. So we'll talk about that in the second half. But first of all, on the judiciary, the reason it's important to talk about this, and those of you who may have heard our live stream on Monday that went out as a podcast on Tuesday, we talked a little bit about whether the White House had blatantly defied a court ruling over the deportation of Venezuelans who were sent to El Salvador. A judge jumped in at the last minute on Saturday night, said you can't do this to the White House, and the White House went ahead and did it anyway. And my understanding is there were discussions in the White House about whether to go ahead after the judge had issued this ruling, and the White House's argument is that the plane was in international waters, and so the judge's ruling didn't apply. But I think the bigger picture is that on the issue of immigration, which is an issue that the US Supreme Court has kind of avoided in the past, this administration is deliberately pushing the Supreme Court to eventually have to take up this issue. And they are trying a whole load of different strategies. They are bringing up different laws from the past, one from 1798, another that is more recent, in order to try and see which of these strategies works. Donald Trump then went on Fox News on Wednesday night and said that he will obey a Supreme Court ruling. He said you can't, he repeatedly was asked about this. He said it very clearly on Fox. You can't just ignore court rulings. So does that answer the question to you, Anthony, about whether this administration is going to stand by the rule of law in America? Are you satisfied?
I'm not satisfied, but I want to bring up something, and I want to tie it back because I think it's very important. You know who Robert Harris is, of course, right?
Yes, love Robert Harris. Great fan.
He wrote a great book called Munich a few years ago. It was a historical novel. It was based on the history and in the research, and I've listened to some of his interviews. It was very clear that the German bureaucrats, sort of the governmental officials, let's call them nonpartisan governmental officials that were in the permanent artifice of Germany, were hopeful that when Chamberlain got to Germany to negotiate with Hitler, he was going to beat his ass in, just use a real New York term. And they didn't say that actually when they were writing this stuff in their diaries, but that's more or less what they thought was going to happen. And they were like, okay, the Brits are coming with their empire. Chamberlain's going to smash Hitler, and we're going to get a different body politic here in Germany. And of course, Chamberlain flinched and he didn't do it, and they were aghast. They couldn't believe that they let this little small man walk over them, and then all the treachery that ensued. And so what happened this week is three things to me, my observation. Number one, Trump blinked. And so I just want to make that clear to everybody listening. Trump blinked. And I'm going to tell you the moment he blinked. He was on Laura Ingram's show on Fox, and he said, well, the justice never mentioned my name. Chief Justice Roberts said, there has to be a process. And you can't impeach a judge. You have to go through the appellate process. And when Trump was asked about this, he said, well, he never mentioned my name. So he blinked there.
Can I just back up a little bit to give people context over that? Because what Trump was referring to was that earlier this week, he put out a Truth Social post in which he said that judges who have ruled against his administration should be impeached. And Justice Roberts put out this very rare kind of middle finger, really, I hate to be so crude, to the White House, in which he said, for more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. It's very rare for the Chief Justice to say that. Trump is right. He didn't say Donald Trump's name. But there is absolutely no doubt in anybody's mind about why Justice Roberts, the Supreme Court Chief Justice, felt he had to put out that statement.
When you're in the headmaster's office and you are working on an alibi, you try to get too cute by a pound. And you say something silly like what Donald Trump said to Laura Ingraham. Well, he didn't mention my name, right? But I know the son of a bitch. So that was telling you that he knows he's on the line and he's going to try to see if he can flex these people. And so my message to these people is go back to what Robert Harris said in the book Munich. He's not as strong and he is not as capable as you think he is. But if you think he's strong, then he is. Okay. And I know that's a little bit of a garbled language, but just think about it. Henry Ford once said, if you think you can or you can't, you're right. And the manifestation of what Trump is doing right now, he's on the line. If they smash him, they're going to knock him back over the line. And then they're going to provide strength to members of the Congress that are very intimidated by Donald Trump and are not moving. And so if Justice Roberts, he's got the capability right now to say, hey, this is not right. The rule of law has to stand in the United States. Justice Roberts can be John Marshall. And let's just explain to people who John Marshall was. The Constitution was written, and there was a very famous case, Marbury versus Madison. You could look it up in 1803. Constitution was written.
It comes up quite often. We like Marbury versus Madison on the rest of politics.
Because it's
US.
the number. It's the first, when you go to constitutional law at a law school, it is the first case that you read. And what does John Marshall more or less say in the case? Hey, man, can't do that. And if we're going to have a constitution and we're going to have this separation of powers, and we're going to have this sort of check on each other, you need to abide by the words that I'm writing here in this decision. And they made that decision. They made that decision to do that. And if Trump doesn't make that decision to do that, they can roll Donald Trump, is my point. He's not as strong as they think he is. He's just a man, Katty K.
I don't get the sports analogy because I guess you were talking about American football. I have no idea what you mean about being smashed over the line. But
I was just being flowery and metaphorical. Actually, there was no real.
I have no idea. I don't really know what that means.
There was no real sports analogy, and there was just a little bit.
Don't try sports with me. Apart from, of course, football and Gary Lineker. But Ezra Klein on the New York Times made this point, and we spoke about it about a month ago. Do not believe him. That he is dressing himself in the apparel of strength and omnipotence. And he only has that if everybody buys into it.
That's it. But he flinched in that interview. And I know him. He flinched in the interview. And so, guys, what do you want to do? If you want to accept that he's stronger than you, he is stronger than you. If you want to accept that he's not stronger than you, then guess what? He's actually not stronger than you. Coalesce. Go back and read Marbury versus Madison, and you tell him and his staff this is not allowed in this country. And if they say, well, we are taking over the country and we're going to create a imperial presidency, and we're going to, we have a 50.5% mandate. We won the election by 300,000 votes, and so we own the country, and we're going to revoke the Constitution, and we're going to take the country from you guys. Then they have a chance to do that, actually. So don't let them do that, is my point.
Do you take him at his word when he also said in that same Fox News interview that you can't just ignore court rulings, because there is an active court ruling hanging out there right now, right this week, that the White House ignored.
Well, also there's a judge that just ruled on Doge, and there's a judge that
on
just said that
USAID.
USAID needs to be restored, and so if they don't restore it, then the court and the Congress has to work together to seek that restoration. And let's take it one step further. They would have to impeach and convict this president. They would have to remove him from office. And I just saw your body language like, well, that's not going to happen because these people don't have the courage or the onions to do that. I understand all that. But face off to him. We made this ruling. You can go through the appellate process. If the appeals court holds the ruling, then you have to do this. And if you're not doing this, you're now in direct violation of the Constitution. Make McConnell, make Thune, John Thune is the Senate Majority Leader, make them disgrace themselves. Make them into traitors to the U.S. Constitution, the rule of law in the United States. If Donald Trump and his minions inside the White House want to break the law, and they want to be traitors, and they want to bust the republic. They want to cross the Rubicon, and they want to bust the republic in this country that's held for 200 plus years. No problem. But do you want to be with them? Or do you want to be on that side of history? If you do, let's get it out in the open. Let's put the lights on Broadway. Let's put the spotlight on your face. And I'm telling you, Trump flinched. And you asked me a question, I'm going to answer it. Trump lied when he said he would respect the rule of law. Because what he does is, that's his thing. Oh, Katty, I'm going to respect the rule of law. Don't respect the rule of law. I'm going to respect the rule of law because he wants you calm. He wants that person in Berlin that you're talking about that wants to pull the emergency exit. Don't pull the emergency exit. I'm not done boiling the frog. Okay, we got to get the frog boiled before you pull the emergency exit, because then the frog's dead. You see, so to me, I liked what happened this week because Justice Roberts channeled the first Chief Justice, John Marshall, and he flexed on Trump.
Yes,
and we got to see if he's going to push it harder. We'll have to see if he does that.
So there was another thing, a couple of other reasons I think it's worth looking at the rule of law this week, and again, a reminder to our European and UK listeners, this may sound kind of arcane and dry, but this is the whole ball game. I mean, if there is going to be a move towards authoritarianism in the United States, it will be because the system of rule of law that applies to everybody, no man is above the law, breaks down, and the president of the United States defies a court ruling and potentially even a Supreme Court ruling. At the moment, the reason I'm telling people here in Europe, playing therapist, don't jump off the edge, is because the system has held up until now. And the courts are so important with this administration because there is no other opposition to Donald Trump within his own party, because Congress is not doing the role that the founding fathers thought it would do. So it's kind of all up to the courts. This is it in terms of trying to limit the president's powers. And we'll see, sometimes the court will rule in the president's favor, as it has done. And sometimes it will rule against him. And then the question is going to be, how does this White House respond? But there's another couple of things that I wanted to ask you about that has happened in the legal sphere this week that I think is interesting. And one of them is the way that the White House has been putting pressure on private law firms. I don't know if you want to, you trained as a lawyer, you haven't worked in a private law firm before, but there are these powerful private law firms in the United States, particularly in Washington, D.C., and over the course of the last week, the White House has been putting pressure on those law firms. Talk a little bit about that from your perspective as a trained lawyer, and how I've heard this from other lawyers, even conservative lawyers, who are concerned about this. And they say this is very abnormal. This is not what White Houses usually do. And why does it matter?
Well, again, it's intimidation. He's gone out to these law firms. He's done two things. And I remember this. Don't ever forget this about Donald Trump. His strength, his political strength, is coming from the culture war. He is a phenomenal culture warrior. Somebody 50 years from now is going to write a history of this time, and he's going to say, wow, this guy watched Fox News and he watched Bill O'Reilly and he, Katty, is there a war on Christmas? Am I allowed to say Merry Christmas to you? I'm just asking. Am I allowed to in the country or no? Because there's a group of people, I have to say Happy Holidays, and it's a war. There's a culture war going on. And so he did two things with the law firm. So number one was, if you're not hiring white males and you are focused on what he would call DEI, okay, we're going to pound you. We're going to come after you. This would be like, let's reverse it. Let's say I said, Katty, you and I have a law firm and we're not going to hire black women. Okay, and you would expect the Department of Justice to come after us and say, hey, that's not the right thing to do. So he's trying to reverse that. That's one thing he's doing. It's part of the culture war. He's a successful culture warrior. The second thing he's doing is Katty and I have a law firm and we're working with Democrats and we're beating up on Republicans. Then he's going to come after our firms. He's going to find things that we're doing wrong and either potentially prosecute us or bring the IRS against us or find some level of criminality in what we're doing to chill us, stop us from being in the opposition to him. And so both those things I think are wrong, but the second one is coming right into the gearbox of attacking the rule of law in the United States.
Because that chilling effect, if there are going to be, again, if it's going to be the courts that act as a check against Donald Trump because the Republican Party in Congress isn't, somebody has to bring those lawsuits against the administration. Right? The lawsuits don't just materialize from your back pocket.
Right.
You have to go, say I'm a plaintiff and I feel I've been fired unfairly from USAID, right? And I go to a law firm and I say to that law firm, will you represent me? And the chilling effect that Donald Trump is having on those law firms is saying, if you represent that USAID employee, we will come after the whole of your law firm.
Exactly.
And we will remove your security clearances. We will make it very difficult for you to do business. I've always said this isn't, when people have said, America's going to become hungry because look what Viktor Orban did. He controlled the courts and the judiciary and he controlled the media. And the counter that I've heard from some smart people is, no, look at the corruption. And anyway, the American system will hold. The American system will hold. But if you make it hard for Perkins Coie, which is one of these law firms, to file those lawsuits, how does the White House get held to account?
Well, there you are. And so you have to ask yourself, are there willing people like in 1803 that are going to say, hey, I'm really sorry, what you're proposing doesn't work for us. What we're suggesting is to stick with the status quo. And what's interesting is you have 6 conservative judges that are supposed originalists. And so for viewers and listeners outside the United States, originalists are, here is the document. This is the U.S. Constitution. Here is the amendments. There are 27 of them. We're going to adhere to the original content of the documents. And as a result of which, when a court case comes in or there's a dispute, what does the document say? Let's go with that. And what Trump is saying is, I would like to tar that document. I would like to push you to the point where you've got to engage with me. But remember something about Donald Trump. He does not like direct conflict.
Oh, he's like you and me.
Yeah, I'm very bad with conflict. You know that. You've learned that about me. I've got my people that help me with conflict,
Donald, we understand you.
Last night, we had the 20th anniversary of Skybridge, and I hired the guy that played...
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I hired the guy that played like the Billy Joel... there was a... musical years ago, a Billy Joel song. I hired the lead singer to come. It was so effing loud, Katty. It was so effing loud. Did I go over to the guy and did I say, hey, could you lower the goddamn music? No, I did not. I went to my buddy and I said, Nelson. I did.
You did not.
No, you gotta know.
No,
you have to listen. At age 61, you gotta.
God.
At age 61, you gotta be self-aware. I love this guy, and I don't want to hurt his feelings by telling him to lower the music. But can you go over there and tell him to lower the music? Sure, no problem. And he lowered the music.
Okay, was that because you didn't want to seem old? You didn't want to seem like one of those old guys who's saying, this is too loud?
I mean, it was a combination of things, but I knew I was going to hurt the guy's feelings. And, these artists are very sensitive. And since I was running the party and paying the bill, I didn't want to be the guy. Okay, but I'm just telling you.
I can't believe you outsourced that.
Okay, but I mean, look, you got to be self-aware in life, okay? And I'm telling you, this guy does not like direct conflict.
Okay, quickly, just before we go to the break, one other piece on the legal side that I think people should look at that caught my attention. Mike Davies, conservative thinker, very close to Donald Trump, runs something called the Article 3 Project. He talked this week saying, we're going to put denaturalization on the table. In other words, we want to make it possible for the White House to strip US citizens who were naturalized of their citizenship if we don't agree with their political point of view. Effectively, and what he said is, if we think they have been supporting terrorism, but that is such a broad definition that in a way it's a free speech issue. You mentioned this before the election, that we're going to get to a position where the White House strips US citizens of their citizenship. And I said, that is never going to happen. Time for me to eat humble pie, because if this does happen, that would be a dramatic reversal of American law as well.
Well, I mean, you don't know, but Katty, it's not that you have to, that was in Project 2025. And so I was just reading that and I said, he's got guys that are going to go down this list. And that is on the list. And by the way, that is so un-American. That is so un-American. Okay, for hundreds of years, show up here, you become a citizen, you're endowed with the rights of American citizenship, and they're irrevocable rights, which includes your right to protest something that you may disagree with. Most of the positive change in this society has come from civil disobedience and has come from positive protest. And you should have that right, whether you got here yesterday or you were born here, you should have that right. And if they're going to challenge that, that is very un-American. But President Trump flinched, and it's up to you now. If you are in power, it's up to you now to knock him right through the ropes before it's too late, before he creeps up on you with more and more stuff.
My husband, Tom, who's a naturalized US citizen, is going to hide his passport under the mattress, just in case anyone from customs enforcement comes looking in our house. They won't find it. Except I've now said where he's going to hide it. We are going to talk about Tesla and Elon Musk in this half of the episode, because the other thing that everybody's asking me about here in Germany, where Tesla sales are down 70% in February compared to where they were in February of last year, is what is going to happen with Elon Musk and Donald Trump. People are so fascinated. That's why, quick hat tip for all of you, Anthony and I are going to record a series on Elon Musk next month. It will go out for our founding members. You can join up at therestispoliticsus.com. Super looking forward to doing that. And there is so much interest, obviously, in Tesla and Elon Musk. But look, it's dramatic here in Germany. It's the same all over Europe. Tesla's sales are way down. Tesla's share price is similarly way down. Is this going to be what breaks up the relationship between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, do you think, Anthony?
Well, before I answer that, is it repairable? Let's say Elon Musk goes to the microphone and says, hey, I've just broken up with Donald Trump. The love bracelet, the infinity bracelet he gave me, I've returned. And I'm now broken up with him. Does that mean that Tesla sales are restored, or has he done permanent damage to his brand?
That's such a good question. I mean, you're thinking exactly like a businessman there, which I love. I think the damage is done. I mean, I think, look, we are in this super weird, ironic situation where European and American liberals are investing or thinking of investing in the rearmament of Germany. And MAGA types are thinking of buying electric vehicles in order to support Elon Musk. But there is not much of a constituency, certainly here in Europe, or amongst the kind of people that would buy electric vehicles in America, the kind of liberal types on the coasts, to suddenly say to Elon Musk, okay, fine, you've got out, and so we're happy with Tesla again. I think you're right. The brand damage is done. And certainly in the US, I mean, who buys electric vehicles in the US? It's not because there is very little infrastructure and they are expensive to maintain, and there is not a culture of it amongst many MAGA supporters. It's not a MAGA type thing to do, apart from Donald Trump, of course, who bought one last week at full retail price, we're told. So I think that the brand damage is done, isn't it?
So I think the brand damage is done, and I don't really even know how you restore it. You know, Elon Musk would probably have to get out of the company at this point, meaning whatever shares he has, he would have to figure out a way to sell the company, which is obviously the company's still very valuable. But I think he's done permanent damage to his brand. This is the thing I was saying before the inauguration. I got in trouble on CNN because I said, you know, he's going to get hurt by these people. What he's about to go into in the circular firing squad of Washington and in this highly charged political environment as a business leader, he's going to get hurt, and he got hurt. And he's lost 51% of the market value of Tesla. And there's a halo effect that was on Tesla. Let me just explain that to people quickly. He started Tesla. He emerged from the 2008 global financial crisis, and people were buying the cars and people liked the cars, and the left, the eco-friendly left, said, this is my go-to guy and this is my car, and there's a lot of sharp technical features in the car if you drive it. And people are like, this is my go-to guy. I am hip. I own a Tesla. And then people said, well, it's worth more than GM and Ford combined. Let me short Tesla. And Elon Musk can constantly defied the short sellers, the people that were betting against him, constantly defied them. And it caused a rocket ship effect on Tesla, where it got itself to an over $1 trillion market capitalization. And a lot of people on Wall Street, from an analytical perspective, would have said, well, it's not really worth that. But it had a halo effect. Elon as, the Iron Man, the Tony Stark figure in Iron Man, Elon as the techno wizard, Elon as the AI guy is going to bring robots through Tesla and solar panels through Tesla. And we love this eco-friendly, progressive Tesla. And then, I don't know, maybe too much ketamine. I don't know what the hell he did, but he's now become this sort of hard right, supporting AfD, hard right politics in Germany and Europe, saying crazy stuff. And so people start turning on him. But he's popped the halo effect of the company. And let me tell you something about my buddies on Wall Street. They smell blood. And they're vultures, and they are picking at the carcass now. And I think it's important for people to know he's about 12 to 15. I haven't seen the debt covenants, but he borrowed a ton of money using Tesla stock as his collateral to buy Twitter, now known as X. He's probably about 15% away from getting a margin call. So just explaining that to people, you borrow $1 million from the bank and your stock is worth $5 million. And the bank says to you, well, if your stock goes down in value to $2.5 million, you have to post up another $1 million or so in collateral to protect the loan that we gave you, because we need to get our loan paid back. You see, and so if he gets hit with a margin call, he's going to either be forced to sell his own shares, or he's going to be forced to do some type of financial restructuring. And so there's blood in the water. There's blood in the water in Tesla. And so much so that I know he's upset about it, where you got the car dealership on the south portico of the White House, okay? And now you've got Pam Bondi saying if you do something to a Tesla dealership, they're setting chargers on fire, they're taking wheels off of Tesla in parking lots and in dealership parking lots. They're going in there at night and taking the wheels off the car. And now Pam Bondi saying, well, that's domestic terrorism.
Yeah.
And by the way, it is a form of that, by the way. I don't like that. I think that's disgusting that they're doing that. And I would say to the left and the right, adhere to the rule of law. You want to protest him, put up a sign. Don't buy his car. Put up a sign. But you're going to blow up his charger, or you're going to smash his window. You can't do that.
They've put Tesla cars on fire here too. I mean, what's interesting about what's happening here in Germany is that electric vehicle sales have actually gone up overall. It's just Tesla that they are targeting. The other thing I had understood is it's not just, his other big problem is that it's not just his brand. It's also that actually Tesla hasn't innovated recently. There haven't been new cool products. There hasn't, as you say, it was the cool thing to have. So in China, where they may or may not care much about what Elon Musk is doing with Trump, Tesla sales are also down because the product isn't up to what they want. They haven't got, new cool electronic gadgets. They want the newest and the latest, and that's what Tesla offered, and it hasn't been offering that. So he's got a kind of double problem. So then I suppose if you were Elon Musk, you might say, okay, I have got a Tesla problem, but I've also got other companies like Starlink, for example, and the Europeans would love to replace Starlink. They realize how incredibly dependent they are on it. We see that in the war in Ukraine, but they know it's going to take them a few years to do that, even if they coordinate. There are some Scandinavian startups that are coming up with satellite options, but really Starlink's the only game in town. So could Elon Musk, and you understand the finances of this much better than me, could Elon Musk swallow the hit on Tesla and fall back on Starlink as his moneymaker, as his cash cow?
Yeah, but yes. Listen, Elon Musk,
the guy, it's not like the guy's poor, right? So he personally doesn't have to worry so much.
Elon Musk is a very rich man. He'll be a rich man for the rest of his life, no matter what happens to Tesla. And he's done a brilliant job. He is an innovator. And I'll quote Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan. Again, like or dislike Elon Musk, he is a Thomas Edison figure of our time. I think the fact that they're not innovating, he's not focused. If you said, okay, Elon, get out of politics, go back to Tesla.
Yeah, go back to your roots.
I have a question for you. So he could get money out of Starlink and he'll be just fine. And that's probably what he would end up doing. He'd probably end up selling some equity in SpaceX, which is a brilliant company. By the way, full disclosure, I'm an investor in X. I'm an investor in SpaceX. And I don't own Tesla, but I'm a big believer in Elon Musk as an entrepreneur. And so, I just say that to you, and people say, oh, well, he's a Trump and he's a Nazi and this, that, and the other thing. Well, I don't believe that. I actually just think he's lost his way. Elon, come home, go back to being an entrepreneur, run your business. But we'll see what happens. But let me just ask you this question. When you buy a car, is it part of the fingerprint of your personality, or is it just a utility for Katty K? I'm afraid of the answer to this, but go ahead. Tell me the answer.
Well, because you know what car I have, so I know, and you hate my little car.
Okay, so tell me the answer. Is it part of your identity?
I've always thought about cars as things that get me from A to B. It's not a big issue for me. I drive a Volvo, which I like. I find it super comfortable. It's quiet. I do sort of like the Swedish brand, I guess, but the car I love in my life is my little Fiat 500 that you hate. And that is definitely part of my kind of zipping around town identity.
Katty, do you know what an American football game is? Do you know what an American football game is?
Of course. I have absolutely, after 26 years of living in America, I have no idea about the rules, but I know what an American football game is. An American
football game, to quote my deceased father-in-law, is a lengthy group of committee meetings interrupted by car commercials. Okay. Meaning, they get in the huddle, they have a stupid play, then they go to the car commercial. Okay. And he said, that's what it was. I mean, you've got committee meetings interrupted by car commercial. In America, we define ourselves. Part of our DNA is we define ourselves with the car. What are you driving? What does that say about you? And he has done a brilliant job, Katty K, of understanding that in America. And Tesla 5 years ago represented something. Now there are bumper stickers on these cars. I bought this Tesla before Elon went crazy. Please don't be mad at me for owning this. I bought it before he went full on Looney Tunes. You see what's going on here? He's damaged that brand identity. Okay, they're calling it a swastika car. Get out of your swastika, sell your swastika. Okay, Elon, you got a brand problem and you want to fix the problem. You may be able to fix the problem, but I don't know. Make Katty K your spokesman. Okay, my producer's saying Katty doesn't do adverts. Okay, but Elon, I'm telling you, Katty's available. Okay, you can make her your spokesman for Tesla.
Yeah.
That would be so much fun for me to watch that.
That would be fun. Look, I mean, I think also what Elon Musk and Donald Trump have done is, again, kind of exported whatever is happening in America to the rest of the world, because you will not find anyone in Europe at the moment who admits to wanting to buy a Tesla. People are very keen to buy electric vehicles, more so than they are in the United States, but Tesla is not the car that they're going to buy. Anyway, Elon Musk's still a source of fascination.
Donald Trump's saying it's all computer, or whatever the verbiage was. Look at this inside. It's computer. Okay. That's not influencing the Europeans? No?
No, it doesn't seem to be influencing the Europeans, no, who have fallen out of love. And his problem is that there just isn't a European MAGA base of consumers to potentially make up for that. I mean, you could see possibly, I suppose, Donald Trump's act of buying a Tesla to support Tesla being replicated amongst other MAGA supporters kind of in cities where there is the infrastructure and they're okay with having an electric vehicle, although a lot of Americans on the right don't love electric vehicles. But there just isn't a kind of massive pro-Elon, pro-Trump base of Europeans who are going to suddenly pick up the slack.
In 2015, one of my Christmas gifts from my oldest son was a Tesla swag jacket. So he had worked in the shopping mall by Tufts University, where he was going to school, and he was working as a Tesla car advisor, and they put him through training. So he was doing that part-time on the weekends, and he gave me a Tesla very hot swaggy jacket. Not as cool as the leather jacket that you're wearing, no, but it was swaggy, and the back of it said Tesla. And I had it on one day, and I was on an American Airlines flight, and a couple of young kids came over to me and said, "Wow, you have a Tesla swag jacket. This is so cool. Where can I get this?" And I very proudly said, "Well, it was given to my son as an employee, and he gave it to me for Christmas. I'm so proud that I'm wearing this Tesla swag jacket." People going to be proud wearing the Tesla swag jacket right now, Katty K? You want to wear that Tesla swag jacket in Berlin, Katty K? I'm just asking.
I know Deirdre, your wife. I suspect she has thrown the Tesla swag jacket
the Tesla
into the trash.
Well, I think it probably went to one of these, you give out the clothes. But I mean, that was gone. She hates swag, by the way. She doesn't hate anything that has a logo on it, if it's not, unless it's Chanel, or Valentino. I mean, she hates.
You love swag.
I do.
You like the brands.
I do. I'm going to have the Rest is Politics swag. Okay, I'm buying it for everybody on the team. It's going to say 1 hour a week on the front, and it's going to have a little logo on it. Yeah, I'm just letting you know. I'm going to be wearing that on the plane, Katty K. But I'm telling you, no one is wearing Tesla swag.
It's going to have a photograph of Michael Lewis on the back. Okay, we're going to wrap it up right there. That's it. Okay, sorry, no more time for anything today. We will be back next week, and we'll be back, of course, on Sunday for our founding members. If you want to sign up, it is therestispoliticsus.com. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for joining us.